Alright, then today what we are going to start is this important thing, which is if name is equal to main. This is going to come into your Python every time you use Python, right? So this is something very important, and this is something that you're going to see quite often. And this is something that majority of developers feel confused about. So you need not to feel confused about this. All right, but yeah, this is very important. This if is very important, right? So that's why I try to conclude today's session with this: if name is equivalent to main. Let's quickly jump into this Python. Ideally, let me write this, right? If I say, hey, I need to print this variable name. So now I'm printing a variable, right, which has double underscore in front and double underscore after the name. Of it's being prefixed by double underscore and it's being suffixed by double underscore. Now if I run it and save this as main is equivalent to or main underscore name, right? So now you can clearly see that we are getting main, right? So let me show you again. I will run this module. Now we are getting main, right? What does it mean? I said I want to print name. It's a variable. And I am getting main. How is the name equivalent to main? That is what the topic is all about. If name is equivalent to main. Alright? If name is equivalent to main, right? We can clearly see that we are getting main. Yes, name is equivalent to main. But what is the meaning, right? And how does it work? Right? So we'll have to understand. Now you understand this. Whenever Python runs a file, before it runs any code, it sets few special variables, and name is one of those special variables, right? Because print has to be called, right? There are some files which are internally working for execution of the program, for running your program, for reading the code. Python uses its own files, and one of those files is right, which sets the name is equal to main, right? I repeat, before it before the Python runs any code, it sets few special variables, and name is one of those special variables. And when a Python file is run directly, it sets the name variable for main. So now, for example, I will say name. It's a variable name is equivalent to name. Right, so now I am running it directly. I'm not importing it. I will say print name. Right. So this name variable will be, or this name variable here, which is the variable of Python. All right. So I'll write it down here. A few important things for you. So I'll say whenever Python, right, runs, right, it or whenever Python runs any file, all right, so it sets up few special variables, and name is one of those special variables, right? Whenever Python runs a file, it sets up few special variables, and name is one of those special variables. And when Python runs a file directly, right? Whenever Python runs a file directly, it sets the name variable to main, right? So now whenever Python runs a file directly, right, the name variable is initialized with main. That means we are going to initialize this name with main. That's why we are running this file directly. We are getting main, right? But we are printing this name here. Now let's see. Let's call this as, for example, first. Let's call this as first file, all right? And let's create a new file, and let's call this as second file, and I will save this as second file, right? So now if I import this file, I can say import, the name of the file is main underscore name. I'll say, or I'll save this as first file. Now let me save this as first file, right, dot python. Now we have the first file, right, and we have the second file. So now if I run this, if I import first file, and now if I run this, right, so now you can clearly see that it's calling the first file. The main is now equivalent to first file, right? If I execute the first file, right, I'm calling the file directly, name is set to main. Now if I go and call the first file indirectly, I'm not calling it directly. Now let's see what this name variable is initialized with. All right, I will run the code and we will see that the name variable is initialized with the first file, which means the name of the file. I'm printing name. Right now the name does not have this basically main. This name variable does not have main. It's going to have main only when you run it from the file, when you run the file directly without importing, right? But once you import this first file, right, and now still print name is here because you're importing the file. Now print is going to get executed. So if I run this file, I get first file, right? So now the name is first file here because it's being imported. So that is something that we developers completely rely upon, and this is something that we often try, right? So now let's say I will print it out here. So I can say the name of first file is, and I will just say this, right, and pass this name variable here and let me format this. So now you're getting the name of first file is main, right? Okay, now what I do right here, right, I go to second file. If I go to second file and I run it and I import it, right, I'll say run the module. The name of first file actually is first file itself, because now you're not running the file directly, right? Main, basically name is initialized with this file name. Now if you run the file directly, name is initialized with MAI and main, and if you import it, right, name is initialized with the file that's being imported. Right, it's very simple. It's nothing, there's nothing complicated right here. Okay, now let's say about I print it out here again. I'll say print in the second file. I will say print the second file name is, and I will just use, right, underscore name, right? So I'll just close it down and I'll format this, right, this. Now the name of the first file is this and the name of the second file is this. Now because you're calling name directly, if the name is called directly, it is going to give you main. Now if a name is called indirectly, right, it is going to give the name of the file that's being imported, right? So it's very simple. So there's nothing basically too much drastic and too much dramatic. So let's first do this. So this is first file. I will define a function main. So for example, we have this function here. It's a user defined function, and I can say, hey, I need to print first file, right, name is, and I will again use underscore name, right? So now I'll just close it down and I will put F in front of this here. Now I will go ahead and say, hey, if the variable name, right, is equivalent to main, whenever name is equivalent to main. Now when is this name going to be equivalent to main, right? When is this going to happen? When name is going to be equivalent to main, right? So when is name going to be equivalent to main? Only when you call it directly. If you call it directly, you're calling this main function. Now you can see, right, the first file name is main, right? Now name is not going to be main when you import it from here. Now let's say you are importing from here. So now this piece of code will not get executed once you are importing it. So I'll say run. Now you can see nothing comes here. Why? Because name is not equivalent to main. Now name is equivalent to first file.py. So this code will not be executed, right? So this is used. This is a very important thing that we can use, or very important condition that we use to check whether the file is main, or this piece of code or this condition is major, or we can say in majority of times this condition is used to execute a code, right, that you have to execute directly. For example, I want to execute something when the file is accessed directly, and I don't want to execute something when the file is imported, right? So now I have executed a certain line of code. You can clearly see here when the file is executed directly. Now if I import, I have not executed this line of code, right? So you can see this if name is equal to main is going to give you whether you are calling the file directly or indirectly. And in advanced programming, there are certain codes, or there are certain piece of code which are meant to be executed when the file is directly called. If the file is imported, calling the same piece of code may raise an exception or an error. To prevent that error, we check whether the name is equivalent to main. If the name is main, you're calling it directly. If it is not, you're not calling the file directly, and the file is most probably being imported, right? And the second thing that you can do is if name is equivalent to main. So let me get rid of this. So you can do something like this: print, right, the file is called directly, right? And now you can go and say else, print, the file is not called directly, right? Or the file is being imported. Right, now if I run this file directly, I say the file is called directly. Why? Because name is equal to main, file is called directly. Now if I go and import the file, now let us see, the file is being imported. Now you are able to distinguish, or you are able to create a differentiate between, right, whether the file is being called directly or the file is being imported. Now you don't want to run certain piece of code when the file is imported. You can see the file is being imported, you are running else. If you call that file directly, you can clearly see the file is called directly, and this is what, it's very simple. I don't know why developers make it very complicated, or those who deliver classes make this thing very complicated. It's pretty easy. It's just used to check whether the file is called directly or the file is being imported. And that too, there are possibilities of executing any piece of code if the file is called directly, and not executing any piece of code when the file is not called directly, right? As simple as anything, no rocket science is involved. Do practice this, right? And let me know, right, if there is anything that I can help you with. And for me, it's very easy, but yeah, this is the most important condition in complete Python that developers use quite often in advanced programming, right? So you got to learn it, understand it, try and practice it 2 or 3 times before you get worse and you get completely familiar with this kind of condition, right? I wish you all the best. Do practice. Bye bye. Take care.